Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. We begin this hour with President Trump warning the U.S. naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz could go on for months unless Iran agrees to a nuclear deal. The president says the blockade is more effective than bombing.
Now they have to cry uncle. That's all they have to do. Just say, we give up. We give up. But their economy is really in trouble.
Now, his comments sent global oil prices soaring to their highest level in 4 years. June futures for benchmark Brent crude soared past $120 a barrel. Comes as the Pentagon puts a public price tag on the conflict for the first time. At an annual budget hearing for the Department of Defense, officials revealed the now 61-day-long war has cost an estimated $25 billion. They could not forecast how much the total cost will be or how long it could last. That price tag was the focus for Democrats who grilled Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Capitol Hill yesterday. In response, Hegseth argued the U.S. is winning the war and claimed the biggest obstacles we now face are the words of, quote, congressional Democrats and some Republicans. Here are some highlights from that hearing.
Well, their nuclear facilities have been obliterated. Underground, they're buried, and we're watching them 24/7.
We had to start this war, you just said, 60 days ago, because the nuclear weapon was an imminent threat. Now you're saying that it was completely obliterated?
They had not given up their nuclear ambitions, and they had a conventional shield of thousands of missiles.
So Operation Midnight Hammer accomplished nothing of substance. It left us at exactly the same place we were before. Do you have either A, a cost estimate coming to us anytime soon, or B, a specific supplemental request?
Thank you for that question. So approximately at this day, we're spending about $25 billion on Operation Epic Fury. Most of that is munitions.
Yeah, my concern here is, Mr. Hegseth, you've testified repeatedly that you're going to be accountable for each and every American taxpayer dollar that you spend, that you're going to be accountable for the rationale. Here we are 60 days in to your war of choice in Iran, and you can't give us an answer on a breakdown of the basic breakdown of American taxpayer dollars that have been spent in your war of choice? That's a question for Mr. Hurst. Right now, as you sit here now,
we're happy to give you a breakdown. We'll provide you a product after this hearing.
Secretary Hegseth, you have been lying to the American public about this war from day one, and so has the president. You have misled the public about why we are at war. You and the president have offered ever-changing reasons for this war. You've misled the public about the progress of the war. While the military has executed this war with tactical success, the strategy has been an astounding incompetence.
So, listen, how is this war going? Do you think we're winning?
Militarily on the battlefield, it's been an astounding military success.
No, but are we winning the war?
Absolutely.
Okay, so do you call Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz winning?
Well, I would say the blockade that we hold that doesn't allow anything to come in or out of Iranian ports.
Okay, so they blockaded us, and then we blockaded their blockade. That's like saying, tag, you're it. Or, you know, if President Madison had said, well, the British just burned down Washington, but don't worry, we're going to burn it down as well.
All right, for more, let's bring in NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. John, good morning. This was a hearing to discuss the Pentagon's record-breaking budget request for the next fiscal year. They're asking for $1.5 trillion to cover the military's budget, also other DoD priorities. It's the first time Defense Secretary Hegseth faced questions from lawmakers since the war with Iran began. So walk us through some of the takeaways here.
Yeah, Joe, and you heard some of them right there. Obviously, the Pentagon's price tag there of $25 billion is the first time we've heard that number from the Defense Department. At the same time, there's been talk of requesting emergency funding of $100 billion, close to $100 billion, about 4 times that much to cover the war. The original price tag that was coming out of the administration was $200 billion for this war. And of course, you see the greater annual budget request, the non-emergency funding swelling by so much. So it'll be interesting to see how the Pentagon actually breaks that money down and whether there are costs that are not being included in that $25 billion. In addition to that, you heard the Defense Secretary repeat the idea that the enemy will not be given any quarter, which means that the United States would not take prisoners of war, that would kill anybody that it encountered on the battlefield. Democratic members of Congress noting that would be a violation of the Geneva Conventions. And some of the other items you heard in there, it was difficult at times in the hearing to distinguish between reality and satire. The blockade of the blockade that you just heard Congressman Moulton talking about. But obviously members of Congress have grown frustrated with this, and they feel somewhat emboldened because their constituents, many of their constituents, are not pleased with this war.
And one reason they're not pleased is because of oil, John, and we're learning more about a meeting President Trump had with oil executives earlier this week. There are reports the president could receive a military briefing today. What is all of this suggesting about the direction of this conflict?
I think it suggests two things, Joe. One is that the president wants to figure out exactly where the boundaries are for him economically. You heard Defense Secretary Hegseth talk about winning this war militarily, and then said, absolutely the United States is winning the war. But the question in between was an important one, which is, you can win tactically on the battlefield, but does that mean the war is being won? And I think the president's testing the outer edge of all the policies that he might put in place to try to temper the cost of oil soaring, talking to oil executives. And, he has already previewed a little bit the idea that he might want this to continue for some time. So we will have to see how that plays out. Some days the president sounds like he wants to pull back as soon as possible, and some days he sounds like he wants to go until he can get a full regime change.
And while we're talking about calendars, John, tomorrow is May 1st. That means 60 days since President Trump officially notified Congress of the U.S.-Israel attacks on Iran. So we know under the 1973 War Powers Resolution, a president can only launch a war without approval from Congress for 60 days. So what happens next? Is Congress planning on taking any action to try and assert some sort of authority here?
It seems really unlikely, Joe, that Congress is going to do that in a way that's effective. We've seen several war powers resolutions attempted on the House and Senate floor, and they just haven't gone anywhere. They've been blocked. The votes are close, but they've been blocked. So I'm not sure that's going to happen. Number two, the president does have the ability to basically do a 30-day extension if he wants under the War Powers Act, and the constitutionality of the War Powers Act has not been cemented. I think the White House position would certainly be that it's an impingement on the president's constitutional powers as commander-in-chief to conduct war on behalf of the United States, or to conduct defense of the United States. So we'll have to see what happens, but it seems very unlikely that this president is going to be deterred without the Congress and the Supreme Court acting.
All right. John, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. A new Supreme Court ruling is giving Republicans a win in the fight over the way congressional maps are drawn across the country. That could potentially impact the upcoming midterm election, which is just over 6 months away. This was a 6-3 ruling along ideological lines, with the court's conservative majority further weakening the Voting Rights Act. Those justices found that a 2024 redrawn congressional map, which created majority black voting districts for Louisiana, is unconstitutional. The court's majority called it a racial gerrymander. About a third of Louisiana's residents are black, but before this map, only one of the state's 6 congressional districts had a majority black population. NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos is here to break down the decision. Danny, good morning. All right, so in this one, the court rules basically states can almost never consider race when maps are drawn or redrawn, in this case, to comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. We know this was enacted originally to protect minority voters who had faced discrimination, had their political power diluted in elections. So walk us through the decision here, what it means now.
Well, yes, you mentioned minority voters, but interestingly enough, the case was filed by people who describe themselves as non-African American. So these are folks who say that they were affected, they were racially discriminated against. And while the court said race can almost never be a good reason for discrimination, including redistricting, what it also held, it didn't completely gut the Voting Rights Act, but it took away a lot of the powers, the procedural powers, for enforcement. And really, the core holding is that as long as a state can come up with any non-discriminatory reason, any non-racial reason, then that redistricting is likely to be upheld. And in a way, it makes it a little harder to prove. By the way, this has always been a challenge with all forms of racial discrimination law. Employment discrimination, for example. Someone claims they were fired because of their race. The employer gets to come up with some non-discriminatory reason, and they just go to the laboratory and say, well, what can we think of that is non-discriminatory.
So here's the thing. The clock is ticking. Louisiana has to redraw its congressional map, but I believe, just over 2 weeks from now is May 16th. That's the state's primary. What does that mean for Louisiana when it comes to this? What could this mean for just states everywhere?
It means chaos. It means a lot of late nights. But going forward, the message to states is that as long as they can articulate a political reason, because as strange as this may sound, if you can come up with a political reason why you've redrawn your districting lines as opposed to a racial reason, then at least according to this decision, you may be in the clear as a state. So again, they just go back to the drawing board and say, well, if anyone says this was racial, then what are some of any political reasons? Because political is ultimately not racial.
The three liberal justices were in the minority here. Justice Elena Kagan writing that the, quote, consequences are likely to be far-reaching and grave. She also says this ruling effectively renders Section 2 all but a dead letter. So long-term, what is this going to mean for these congressional maps we see all over the country, which ultimately determine control of Congress?
Yeah, sometimes statutes are overruled or struck down without actually being struck down because they're gutted. You take away all the procedural innards of them, and it makes them really hard to enforce in the first place. And that's exactly what Justice Kagan is saying here. So going forward, it really becomes a blueprint for an end run around the Voting Rights Act and the protections it was originally intended to provide to people against discrimination when it comes to redistricting.
All right, Danny Ceballos, good to have you with us. Thank you. We are getting our first look at the chilling moments just before the alleged gunman opened fire at the White House Correspondents' Dinner over the weekend. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has more on these new images coming from inside the suspect's hotel room.
New images inside the alleged plot to assassinate President Trump. Prosecutors say this is Cole Allen taking a selfie in his Washington Hilton hotel room that he checked into the day before the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The Justice Department highlighting an ammunition bag, a shoulder holster, as well as pliers, plus the arsenal he was allegedly carrying, including a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun, a .38 caliber pistol, and 6 knives. But it's these higher-resolution screenshots of surveillance video obtained by the Washington Post that capture the chaos of the breach. You can see when prosecutors say Allen sprinted through a magnetometer with the intent of bursting into the ballroom to kill the president. The images appear to show him holding a shotgun, followed by a Secret Service officer firing at least 4 shots.
The first thing that happened that actually freaked me out a little bit, Will, is that we heard that an agent had been shot. And in the fog of war, I thought, oh, my God, this guy's actually seriously injured or maybe worse. And then we found out later, of course, that he was uninjured or not seriously injured.
3 law enforcement officials familiar with the case tell NBC's Kelly O'Donnell investigators have now determined that Allen did fire his weapon, striking a Secret Service officer, and that it was not friendly fire from another member of law enforcement. Allen's public defenders are asking a judge for confidential access to their client in accordance with the 6th Amendment, ahead of a detention hearing.
And we're also learning more about how the suspect may have been tracking President Trump in real time. Prosecutors say just minutes before the attack, Allen used his cell phone to view live media coverage of the president exiting his vehicle to attend the dinner. As for the event itself, a source familiar with the planning tells NBC News the White House Correspondents Association board is having active conversations about rescheduling. Back to you.
All right, Gabe, thank you. In economic news, oil prices are soaring again after it became public that President Trump is weighing new military options for what to do about the Strait of Hormuz. That important waterway remains closed. Members of the president's national security team presented him with a number of options this week for how to handle the ongoing bottleneck after talks with Iran stalled. That's according to a U.S. official and a person familiar with the meeting. These rising oil prices are expected to keep gas prices high as we head into the summer season. NBC's Dana Griffin has more on the sting at the pump.
With oil now at a 4-year high, gas prices surging.
The gas prices are insane. They are too high.
Gas prices now at their highest level this year and since the war with Iran began. Here in California, the state with the highest gas taxes, the average nearing $6 a gallon. Premium users shelling out 40 cents more. Global oil prices soaring with Iran blocking the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump meeting with energy industry executives about minimizing the impact for American consumers, including increasing domestic production, a White House official tells NBC News.
It's pretty painful.
But experts warn the ripple effect of the strait's closure could last for weeks, even when it reopens.
Oil prices could, in theory, drop 10 or 15%, but it still may take 60 weeks for oil inventories to completely heal from this. Americans will be lucky to see a sub $3 price before the end of the year.
Right now, the most affordable states include Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana, with prices below $3.80 a gallon. The most expensive out west, California, Oregon, and Washington state. One hopeful sign long-term, the United Arab Emirates, a major oil exporter and U.S. ally, saying it's leaving OPEC and will pump more oil.
Ultimately, it's a good thing for getting the price of gas down.
But for dog walker Kim Zuckert, who drives across L.A. for appointments,
this is my only source of income, and I've been doing it for years, so it's not like there's anything else I can do.
Even if the Strait of Hormuz were to reopen, experts tell us best case scenario for summer gas prices would be in the mid $3 range, adding that even within the next 24 hours, we are likely to see gas prices increase yet another nickel. Back to you.
All right, Dana, thank you. Let's get more on all this with Brooke DePalma. She's a senior reporter at Yahoo Finance. So first of all, let's talk about the energy markets. What are we seeing here? Why are we seeing it?
Energy markets surging overnight, and it's because of the fact that we saw that re-escalation of possible attacks on Iran by the U.S. based upon this report that we heard from Axios. And so what we saw was that international benchmark Brent surged to as much as $126 per barrel. We also had a U.S. benchmark crude now sitting around $106 a barrel. And so that is elevating the energy markets even higher. Now there is a fear that this is going to severely disrupt supply. It's going to be a sustained, prolonged impact here.
And that has a lot of people thinking about this summer, their travel plans. We just heard about gas prices bothering people, also jet fuel prices impacting airline ticket prices. What's it looking like for this summer?
This summer, everything's going to be more expensive. Not only the cost to travel, but also the cost to shop at your local grocery store as well. When you think about those jet fuel costs, we've heard from some executives like United that they are paying hundreds of millions of dollars more in jet fuel costs. In order to offset that, guess who's going to pay for it? You and me. We're going to pay more to travel through the skies this summer. United Airlines saying that ticket prices could go up by about as much as 20%. Wow. That's pretty significant this summer. But of course, if this goes on for longer, we could see that tick even higher. And that is the real fear among Americans right now.
And that's one of the things that the Federal Reserve was looking at yesterday when deciding on interest rates, deciding to keep things unchanged as we expected. The Fed Chair Jerome Powell gave some comments afterward. Let's listen to that.
Inflation has moved up and is elevated, in part reflecting the recent increase in global energy prices. Developments in the Middle East are contributing to a high level of uncertainty about the economic outlook, and we will remain attentive to risks to both sides of our dual mandate.
So interesting, this was the first decision to see 4 members dissent since 1992, which shows there is some disagreement here. Walk us through the Fed's decision yesterday, but maybe this dissent is a sign we could see something different later this year?
Right. Well, we are still expecting that rates will remain unchanged throughout this year. Fed Chair Jerome Powell largely saying that inflation is sort of misbehaving, but we are seeing job gains remain relatively low. He also went on to say that because of this, we're seeing those higher airline tickets. We're also seeing this disruption. But at the same time, he said this leaves us in a very good place to wait and see. There can't really take much action because of the fact that there is still so much uncertainty. And that's why we saw one Fed governor, Stephen Myron, he dissented the vote saying that he wanted a quarter-point cut. We also had 3 others saying that because there was this easing bias, that there could be potential rate cuts. They offset that. They said because of this inflation, maybe that would even lead to rate hikes. And that's why you saw those 4 dissents. So Fed Chair Jerome Powell ultimately handing off a very fractured Fed to Kevin Warsh potentially.
And let's talk about that, this handoff here. So we expect this was probably Powell's last meeting.
Right.
As a person in charge, he's expected to stay on the board of governors. There's this whole issue of the DOJ probe where we know that there's still the potential for an investigation. But to walk us through what happened here and where things stand.
So this is something that we haven't seen in about 80 years. A Fed chair's term expiring. His term ends on May 15th, and he's actually deciding to stay on. That was what the press conference, the first question, opened up with. We haven't seen that since about 1948. At that time, the Fed governor stayed on for 3 years. Typically, it's tradition. When your term expires, you then step down from the governor, from the board overall. But he's deciding to stay because of these legal attacks that he said the Federal Reserve is up against. And that's because of the DOJ investigation into the renovations at the Federal Reserve's headquarters. Ultimately, those investigations, that case was dropped. But if they found more evidence, then it could return. And ultimately, he's saying that he's not leaving until it is truly over, until it's absolutely finite, that this will not be the case moving forward. Ultimately, this is a fight against the Fed's independence.
All right, Brooke, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Cleanup efforts continue this morning in North Texas following an outbreak of severe weather this week that has left widespread damage. The epicenter is in the town of Mineral Wells. That's just outside of Dallas. It felt the wrath of an EF3 tornado, destroying several homes. Now, the storm system also brought rain. Some people needed to be rescued from high floodwaters. Officials say at least 2 people were sent to the hospital, with several others suffering minor injuries. NBC News correspondent George Solis has the latest.
In Mineral Wells, Texas, a rain-wrapped tornado sending debris sky high with life-threatening winds up to 145 miles per hour, turning highways dangerous for drivers. The severe storm leveling homes and buildings, flattening this warehouse, injuring 5. This video showing the vast destruction.
Hard at all, like it hit us from the side.
Chris Hester and his girlfriend Rebecca Scott survived the storm inside their home, recording this video of the aftermath.
We went outside to collect our stuff so it didn't blow away.
They say the tornado ripped their roof off.
We just saw like the walls being torn away piece by piece, and then all of a sudden just a torrential downpour of water just came, and all of a sudden...
Because we should not be alive right now.
The couple alive, but devastated.
We lost everything, man.
Oh, tornado right there on the road. Across the South and Midwest, the past 24 hours alone, seeing more than 200 storm reports.
I'm going to give you some tables. I'm going to wrap around you.
In White Settlement, Texas, authorities say these officers jumped into action to rescue a family stranded in rushing floodwater on Saturday.
In the car.
Across the South, large hail wreaking havoc, punching through this skylight at a Walmart in Missouri.
God was watching over us.
Back in Mineral Wells, Macy Nix is working to help her neighbors find a place to lay their heads.
The focus is on the people that lost everything. It's a miracle with what happened that so many people were able to make it out.
And officials right now are in the process of surveying all of the damage to make sure that nobody is inside any of these homes. Officials are urging people to stay away as this cleanup continues. Still, families are working to get as many of their belongings as they can. Back to you.
George, thank you. In the aftermath of that storm, Texas, the Gulf Coast now gearing up for some more heavy rain. Let's get a closer look with your morning News Now weather and meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, good morning.
Hey, Joe. Good morning to you. We've got multiple days of kind of heavy rain on tap for folks across parts of the South and the Southeast. And it's kind of a difficult situation because we need the rain, but not all at once. And this is going to create some flooding concerns, already ramping things up this morning with some of those thunderstorms working along and ahead of this kind of stationary front. That is just going to be sitting around here over the next couple of days. We've got plenty of Gulf moisture. We've got moisture from the tropics, or from the Pacific rather, kind of working its way across this region. And that leaves us with the chance for multiple rounds of rain across the southern plains, but also some of these isolated stronger storms that could develop into this evening across parts of central Texas. By tomorrow, notice all of that rain that's still kind of just along that front across some of these same areas that have already dealt with the soaking rain over the past couple of days. We'll see us do it all over again tomorrow from Texas to Mississippi. And then part of this works across more of a focus for the southeast as we get into Saturday. We'll still see some of those stronger storms, maybe gusty conditions possible from Georgia to South Carolina. But overall, folks across parts of Texas will finally get a break as we work into the weekend. In the meantime, though, this is the area today that we're watching for a slight risk for flash flooding. Really impressive hourly rainfall rates, not just today, but into tomorrow as well. San Antonio stretching to New Orleans, Alexandria, Houston, Houston, all included in that flash flood risk for tomorrow as well. So this is kind of the general area that we'll be watching. We could see upwards of maybe 5 inches in some of these spots. And again, we need the rain. You can see that 100% of the Southeast is in at least a moderate drought. Notice some of the exceptional drought across there, across parts of southern Georgia and Florida. But either way, we need some of this rain, and we're going to get it in a short amount of time with that flooding concern with us. As we look to our temperatures, pretty cool conditions for most of the country. We're running below normal. The chill is in the air in Detroit today with just a high of 54. Nashville tops out at 69 degrees. We've got low 60s in Amarillo, and we keep that same trend going tomorrow. Close to normal in New York City, where we'll see a high of 66 degrees, upper 60s for Paducah, and 50 degrees in Chicago tomorrow. And then we kind of see a milder pattern setting up as we roll into our weekend and into early next week in some spots. So we go from the low 60s in D.C. on Saturday back to those mid 70s by Monday, feeling much warmer as we look ahead from Saturday to Monday in Raleigh with the high 70s on tap, and then upper 60s on Sunday in Louisville, ending up into those mid 70s by Monday, Joe.
Walking around yesterday, I was like, oh, normal? This is what it's supposed to feel like right now?
It has been. We've been saying it for weeks and weeks, the roller coaster ride. So normal almost feels atypical. You're like, wait, is this what it's supposed to feel like?
Yeah,
yes.
We're on the teacups, not the roller coaster right now. We're just cruising along. All right, Angie, thank you so much. The final day of the royal tour is underway. King Charles and Queen Camilla are returning to the White House later this morning for a farewell from President Trump and the First Lady. Then they'll head to Virginia for a block party marking America's 250th birthday. Yesterday, the King spent the day in New York City. He began at the 9/11 memorial, where he paid his respect to victims of that tragedy and met with families and first responders. Then a very different scene uptown. The King and Queen stepped out for a star-studded gala benefiting the King's Trust. That's Charles' charity, which has been helping young people for nearly 50 years. The event showcased the UK's cultural impact on New York.
At this reception, we can celebrate both my King's Trust and the enduring cultural bond between the people of the United Kingdom and the United States, which, of course, is a relationship rooted in shared creativity, enterprise, and values.
Queen Camilla also stopped by the New York Public Library, joining Sarah Jessica Parker and our own Jenna Bush Hager to spotlight the power of books. Jenna spoke with the Queen about her charity, the Queen's Reading Room, and we're going to have more of their exclusive conversation in our next hour.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.